What is going on, YouTubers? It is Referee Rob Jackson back with another reaction to a video that I just that brought back so many memories for me. This is part 4 of the entire history of FNaF by FNaF. John, again, thank you, brother, for uploading this video. It was great. You gotta do a video on Sister Look. You know what? Security Breach. I'm gonna see if you did any videos on Security Breach, any theory videos or stuff like that. Because I definitely want to check it out. Dude, thank you so much for even just making this video. It has been awesome, running through here. I've seen this video a lot, but it helps that, it brings back some memories that, I can, excuse me, that I can definitely, definitely get into. So probably like an hour and a half is when, excuse me. Oh, this video is an hour and a half. Okay, never mind. So this is part 4, the final part of the entire history of FNaF. Let's finish the video.
They just unfortunately fell victim to one of Scott's many trolls. On October 7th, 2016, the real FNaF sister location was officially released. The community fell in love with the game, despite it leaving us with more questions than answers yet again. The game led you through Circus Baby's entertainment and rental while you had the night shift as a technician. You were being guided by Hand Unit, a talking portable keypad. Once again, this is not a lore video, but the game did tell a pretty compelling story that you had to research for days after the game to fully understand, but it was compelling nonetheless. The game had great voice acting, great jump scares, and even a great twist. The game quickly became a lot of people's favorites in the franchise. Here's a quick speed round. On October 17th, Scott announced that he was making a new custom night for Sister Location. He announced this with a teaser on Scott Games and a post on Steam. He stated that the update would be free and not canon to the main game. On October 22nd, Scott announced that FNaF The Silver Eyes was a #1 New York Times bestseller, thanking the community.
Really?
On October 30th, MatPat released his new Sister Location theory, and Scott commented on it on Steam, saying that regardless of what people may agree with or disagree with about the theory itself, I think this was one of his best videos. It was well made, it was entertaining, and he really did find some things that no one else had found yet. Fast forward to November 27th, 2016, when we got a new teaser and release date for the Sister Location custom night. It was slated to release December 1st, which was literally a few days away. Then on December 1st, Sister Location's custom night arrived. The custom night was in the style of all the FNaF games that came before it, but of course it had its own special twists. The update wasn't as big of a deal as a mainline FNaF release, but people still seemed to really like the update. And as much as Scott said the custom night would not be canon, if you got far enough in the game, you would unlock one of the most canon cutscenes in all of FNaF. 2017. On January 17th, 2017, Scott posted a new teaser on FNAFworld.com announcing that an iOS and Android port of the game was coming soon. FNaF World ended up releasing on Android for 1 day before it was pulled from the App Store. FNaF World was then never released on iOS. The mobile port of FNaF World seemed to be a stripped-down version of the PC game and got a lot of backlash. Scott responded to someone on Reddit and said, "Guys, I'm sorry, I promise I will never touch this game again. I thought I was doing a good thing, but it was obviously a bad idea." After that, we would never receive any future news or updates about FNaF World ever again. After the release of Sister Location's custom night, the community still had the movie to look forward to. On January 31st, 2017, Scott posted an update about the FNaF movie on Steam, saying that the FNaF movie was met with several delays and roadblocks, and as a result, the movie was back at square one. This was not the update we were expecting, since it's been almost 2 years since the movie was announced at this point. But Scott reassured everyone that this was a good thing because he was going to be involved with the movie from day one this time, implying that maybe the studios started making changes to the movie that Scott didn't fully agree with. 2 months later, Scott posted his first and last ever tweet. The tweet featured a photo of a director's chair with Freddy's name on it, along with Blumhouse Productions in the background. This was pretty good news because Blumhouse is known for making some pretty good horror movies, so FNaF was officially in good hands. ScottGames.com went dark on January 7th and remained that way for over 6 months, the longest period of time without a Scott Games update since FNaF began. The silence ended when a new teaser was posted on Scott Games and FNAFworld.com on June 11th, 2017. On FNAFworld.com, all you could see was eyeballs, similar to babies, but not exactly. No one had any idea what these were teasing. Could there actually be a FNaF 6? The teaser on Scott Games was to promote the newest FNaF book, Five Nights at Freddy's The Twisted Ones. Scott would then update Scott Games throughout the month of June with new teasers for the book leading up to its release.
The funny thing is, if you look at the teaser with
on June 30th,
eyes that
Scott
are
released a
open,
long post on Steam with some major
like
updates.
the one he
He
showed
announced
before,
that he's been working on a new game, possibly FNaF 6, and that
if you look at the teaser that actually show the eyes, I want to say. Wait, I have a mouse. What am I doing? Yeah, so if you look at that teaser, it actually let me hold it right there. Yeah, if you look at that teaser, it actually looks like it's a teaser for the FNaF book Into the Pit. Like the same exact like teaser, or the same exact cover of Into the Pit. I don't care if it's for the twisted ones. I know what it is.
That he needs to take a break from the development of the game. He goes on to say that he's a bit burnt out and the expectations to keep making the games better and better have got to him. He said that he was just taking a break and that he'll be back eventually. He then announces that a VR game is on the way and that the FNaF movie is now in safe hands with Blumhouse. He ends the post saying that he hopes we can understand and respect his decision. Most of the community was happy Scott was taking a break since he was working non-stop since 2014. But others in the community did not really like this post and actually thought that he might be trolling. This led to Scott editing his post saying that he'd rather just say the new game is canceled rather than leaving everyone on hold indefinitely. He also said that he wants to make something more lighthearted to help him relax and that it would be free. The next time we got an update on ScottGames.com was for FNAF's 3rd anniversary on August 8th, 2017. Scott, for the 2nd year in a row, showed us some behind-the-scenes images of him working on the past FNAF games, but this time something was off. Out of the 9 images we got, 3 of them seemed to feature parts of some animatronics that we've never seen before. Maybe Scott was done with his break, or maybe these were just nothing. The community wasn't really sure at the time. The last teaser we got on the anniversary was of the Freddy plushie from FNAF 4. Nothing when you brighten it up and nothing notable in the source code. 10 days later on August 18th, 2017, this image dropped on ScottGames.com. The image was of the FNAF 2 8-bit Freddy with a rainbow following him. Because it was the FNAF 2 Freddy, people were speculating that Scott was trying to hint that the new game would take place during that era. 2 months later, on October 28th, 2017, the 8-bit Freddy teaser was updated to feature 3 kids standing around him. That's it. On November 8th, 2017, the image changed to Freddy juggling some pizzas around. Still, the community had no idea what Scott was up to. Meanwhile, on FNAFworld.com, the eyes that showed up a while ago have now closed. We ended up getting an update from Scott 18 days later on November 26th, where he said that he was going to make an announcement about a new cast/crew member on the movie, but it wasn't fully set in stone, so he didn't want to. He also said that he refused to let a full year go by without a new FNAF game, so he's whipping up something fun for us for the holidays. We would soon learn what that was on December 1st, 2017, when Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator was announced on Scott Games. It looked like this was going to be a fun 8-bit styled game from Scott, but some of the community had their doubts and maybe their expectations a little too high. A lot of people thought they were literally getting FNAF 6, but it looks like Scott wasn't trolling this time. On December 3rd, we got another teaser with a countdown to the game. 2 days left. The next day, 1 day left. And on that day, December 4th, 2017, Scott took to Steam to apologize to the community. He saw the response to the teasers and was sorry if he may have overhyped the game. He reassured the community that this was just a fun game and nothing big at all. He ended by saying that he was just going to release the game today instead of tomorrow, so the game released. And this is what happened.
What the? What the frick? The frick going on? Oh! 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 Oh my god! The biggest memory, of course, is when we thought we were just playing a little 8-bit sprite game, feeding pizzas to kids, right? And then the game glitched, and then bam, Scrap Baby on the interview table with the tape.
Oh, the community ate their words in their reviews.
If you guys have seen my reaction
100%.
to that, that's my best memory. Being trolled by Scott and getting a full game, completely free by the way, it was completely free. Seeing Scrap Baby in the interview room, 10 out of 10. Best memory, hands down.
Scott's fun little game for the holidays ended up being FNAF 6. Scott successfully trolled the community once again. The game was partly a pizzeria simulator and partly a full-on FNAF game. People loved the pizzeria simulator part of the game where you could make money and spend it on upgrading your pizzeria. You could also play some of the mini games that you bought, which actually led us to some of the biggest lore bits we've ever gotten. Each night of the game, you were offered a new animatronic to either throw away or keep.
Oh, I always hated the
fending it off
animatronic
once
parts
you
in the
entered the
fucking...
FNAF part of the game. If you collected all the animatronics and successfully made it to 6 a.m., you unlocked one of the best cutscenes in any FNAF game ever.
Please play the whole cutscene.
Connection terminated.
Please play the whole thing.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth. If you still even remember that name.
This game was a joy, and the fan base loved it, especially that ending cutscene. The game gave us a lot of answers to the lore, which is something that fans really have been wanting, but it also left a lot of questions on the table. But in Scott's own words, some things are best left forgotten for now. After the release of Pizzeria Simulator, we didn't really hear much from Scott until February 12th, 2018, when he announced that Chris Columbus would be writing, directing, and producing the FNAF movie. 4 days later on February
For those who don't know, Chris Columbus is an amazing actor. This man, or actor, wow. Oh, it's going to be that kind of a night tonight. No, Chris Columbus is an amazing director. He actually directed, if you don't know, he actually directed a couple of the Harry Potter films, including the first film, and I believe he worked with, I think he worked with David Heyman and Alfonso Cuarón for Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Parts 1 and 2.
On February 16th, 2018, Scott gave another update on Steam titled Future of FNaF Games and Update Ideas. In the post, he said that he's had a lot of good opportunities come and go, mostly because he wanted to finish off the series himself. He was happy with the state of the franchise and how he ended Pizzeria Simulator, and announced that if there was going to be another major FNaF game, he wouldn't be the one making it. Some people say that this was the actual moment that Scott retired, but he wasn't done quite yet. He had ideas for an update to Pizzeria Simulator which featured an ultimate custom night with a lot more characters added to the game. The community responded well to this news, so he edited the post saying he's going to begin work on Ultimate Custom Night and to keep an eye on Scott Games to see his progress. And boy did he update Scott Games. A lot. 2 days later, on February 18th, 2018, Scott updated Scott Games for the first time with 40 blank boxes, which meant there were going to be 40 animatronics in Ultimate Custom Night. After this point, Scott uploaded over 65 new teasers to Scott Games.
Yeah, it ended up being
span of
50
4
animatronics.
Months. So I hope you'll forgive me for not going over every teaser and telling you the exact day that
You're
they
all
released.
good, brother.
Over time, the list grew to over 50 animatronics, with Scott updating a Steam post frequently with every animatronic and their exact gameplay mechanics. On May 10th, 2018, Dawko uploaded a YouTube video to his channel. Nothing unusual there, he posts mostly every day, until you clicked on it.
This is a good one too. Fucking Dawko.
Is this a message to Scott? Scott, I'm giving you 24 hours!
In the video, Dawko pretended to take 4 people hostage
great,
and demanded
too.
that Scott make 50-20 mode easier. Dawko did this because he had been trying to make a bet with Scott. If he can beat 50-20 mode in Ultimate Custom Night, Scott has to do an interview with him on his channel. After Dawko posted this video, Scott actually responded via a YouTube comment and a Steam post, saying that the bet is on, but if Dawko gives up on 50-20 mode, he has to make a FNaF fan game called FNaF 7. Dawko was now more determined than ever to beat 50-20 mode and get
hands
that
down.
interview. While
Hands
all
down.
of this was going on, we got the final installment in the FNaF book trilogy, FNaF The Fourth Closet, on June 26, 2018. The next day, on June 27th, Ultimate Custom Night was released for free on Steam, and the race to beat 50-20 mode was on. In the meantime, the game featured more lore than we were expecting, with every single character in the game having voice acting and different cutscenes after progressing in the game. A lot of the voice lines were lore heavy, but some of them were interesting. Cue Mr. Hippo. If you died to this
love Mr.
animatronic
Hippo.
in the game, he would not only jump scare you, but he would then tell you an over 3.5 minute long story that had absolutely nothing to do with the lore, and it was awesome.
My friend, you have met a terrible, terrible demise. But, you know, I don't feel too bad about it. After all, if it weren't from me, it would have just been from someone else, you know? I guess what I'm trying to say...
Over on GT Live, MatPet was trying to pick apart the lore of the game, curious about the anime-styled cutscenes featured as you progressed.
それで鳥を撃ったかそれとも捕まえようとしただろうか笑いカワセミの服を着た笑いカワセミの隣に座った私は
The cutscenes were silly. That's it, they were just silly. Overall, people...
That's not it, because if you actually watch that cutscene, so each of these cutscenes, like even though they were silly, they had an underlying message behind them. If those of you who paid close attention and kept the books in mind and the whole thing between William Afton and Henry Emily in mind, you'll understand that that cutscene that MatPat was watching between Freddy and Foxy, or the Bear and the Fox, it was actually a reflection of the relationship and the hatred and feud between William Afton and Henry Emily. And it was about Henry striking when William is like, oh, whatever. So, like, if you look at the underlying story, there is an underlying story, but keep the books and the characters and the lore in mind.
All people loved Ultimate Custom Night. It's one of the highest rated FNaF games on Steam.
And it's
with
still
an
scary, too.
overwhelming positive score from reviewers. The game was a success and the community was happy. Oh, where was Dawko?
Oh!
kidding me?
Ultimate Custom Night. I think you already know what my favourite memory is. Right.
Daco is a
ended up beating
G
50
for that,
mode
man.
with a reaction that became one of the biggest memes in the franchise to this day. Daco officially won an interview with Scott Cawthon, the first and only audio interview that he would ever do. Daco was surprisingly not the first one
At
to
the
complete
time.
50/20 mode. A YouTuber by the name of Remery completed it a day before Daco on July 8th, 2018, officially becoming, we think, the first ever person to beat 50/20 mode. Remery was then followed by Daco on July 9th and DJ Sturf on July 10th. The community rallied together to try and get this done, with DJ uploading tutorials on how to more effectively beat 50/20.
Seeing Daco cross the finish line was one of my favorite memories from the entire series, though. Not too long before Ultimate Custom Night came out, Daco was in the hospital with a collapsed lung, and I wanted to be sure that he didn't go back to the hospital. So
Oh, shit.
I guess
Yeah,
mission
no,
accomplished
understandable.
on that one. Previously, Daco didn't have much of a history of finishing the hardest modes, and I mean, I've always seen him as more of the face of the franchise, and he's very personable and he's great with the community. So, yeah, that's more of what he focused on, and he's kind of like a stress light type player by nature, but he's very capable of beating the hardest modes.
On July 9th, Scott congratulated all of the people who have completed 50/20 mode, including Remery, Daco, and DJ Sturf. The interview was posted on August. All of the people who have completed.
Let's see. Remery, Daco, DJ Sturf, Omeo 108, Mr. Ginas, Kaji 75, Van Wolderman, Small Matthews. I don't think Markiplier completed it at this time, but he did. Mark did eventually end up beating it.
Completed 50/20 mode, including Remery, Daco, and DJ Sturf. The interview was posted on August 8th, 2018, and was a joy to watch.
You gotta watch
Daco
this
asked
video.
some great questions, and Scott gave some great answers. It was really cool to hear the voice of someone who has made such a big impact on so many people's lives.
If
The
you haven't
interview's a
seen the
great
interview
watch, and I
between
recommend
Daco
going to check
and,
it out after
Scott
this
Cawthon,
video.
you
I
have
got
to
a lot of
watch it.
information for this video out of that interview, actually. On August 19th, Scott made a long Steam post about all of the upcoming projects planned related to FNaF. First, he talked about a movie and how he already had a few scripts written. He announced that the story would be based around the first game and that the possible second movie would be based on the second game. Secondly, he said that the VR game is coming along well and that he was creeped out by the demo Steel Studios sent him. Steel Studios is a small game studio based out of California who were set to make the first official FNaF VR game. Scott said that a FNaF AR game is also coming, but it's in its infancy. Lastly, he mentioned that he would like to make a game just for fun for the community, along the same lines as Update 2 for FNaF World. There were a lot of projects coming and the community was super hyped about the future of FNaF. ScottGames.com stayed dark for nearly 8 months until it was updated on March 11th, 2019. A new teaser dropped for the FNaF VR game that Scott was teasing, including some hidden teasers in the source code. The main teaser featured brand new models of some of the animatronics we knew and loved, all mushed together with the words, "Everything is working as intended" in the top left. The teaser featured some hidden text that directly connected back to the lore of the main games, including Remember Jeremy, so it was looking like the VR game was going to be canon. One problem occurred with this new teaser, though. It seemed that Steel will either unknowingly or knowingly use the likeness of some fan models in the teaser. Scott went to Reddit and announced that he has taken down the teaser and plans to think about where to go from here. On March 25th, 2019, the trailer for FNaF VR Help Wanted was officially released and it looked awesome. The trailer was short and kind of scattered, but it showed us some really cool gameplay that looked like it would be terrifying in VR. We got the official release date for Help Wanted on April 19th, 2019. The game was set to be released on May 21st, 2019. Fast forward to May 16th and FNaF VR has officially been delayed, but not for long. The release date was pushed 1 week to May 28th just so the studio could polish the game a little bit. Most of the community was accepting of this news considering that Steel Studios was trying to make the game the best it could be. On May 20th, 2019, Scott sent a few select YouTubers an early copy of FNaF VR, encouraging them to notify him of any glitches. At the time, they took that comment at face value, but knowing what we know now, he was meaning. Pretty soon, the YouTubers and their audiences were being brought on a new journey through the FNaF universe. A journey that slowly started connecting to the canon of the main lore. The game featured FNaF 1 through 4 with some newly created minigames crafted by Steelwool Studios. It's funny because the minigames, not the actual FNaF games, became most people's favorite part of the game. In the game, Scott Cawthon became canon, the actual FNaF games themselves became canon, and being able to download your consciousness into a video game became canon. Yeah, don't look for answers from me in this video. The game introduced a new but familiar villain, Glitchtrap, who was William Afton, the purple guy, but in digital form. The game eventually released to the public on May 28th, 2019, and even though it was a bit buggy at first, it ended up being a solid entry to the franchise. Steelwool Studios seemed to be the chosen ones to continue the FNaF lore. Next up was the day that started it all, the beginning of the end, or the beginning of what would be the current day. On FNAF's 5th anniversary, Scott released this teaser on Scott Games, announcing a brand new game that seemed to be set in a mall with brand new animatronics coming in 2020. This was really exciting news because other than the VR game, the community hasn't gotten a proper FNAF game since Pizzeria Simulator back in 2017. The same day, FNAFworld.com was updated with a new image as well, and it was the number 58. When you brighten the image, you could see some made-up quotes making fun of the idea of this new game, saying things like probably the worst idea he's ever had and stopped caring after Dream Theory. People started piecing together that in FNAF World Update 2, there was a minigame titled Freddy in Space 57, so it looked like we were getting a sequel to that game.
Scott's much more go with the flow, but he's also kind of in turbo mode sometimes. I think it was 10 days before the St. Jude charity stream with Freddy in Space 2 that Scott sent me the first email saying, "Hey, can you test this?" And I was like, yeah? And I was thinking, well, how much time? Like, that's going to be very, very, very fast. But the nice part was, with that one in particular, with Freddy in Space 2, it was right around Thanksgiving, and I had several days that I could take off, and I needed to take off of work. So I did, and I had a lot of time to devote to that. So it was a bunch of time in a big chunk there all at once, trying to get as many builds and cycles done as possible. I tested the N-1 build, and then when the stream was going on, and I saw the version number was one above the one that I tested, I was like, oh no, like, oh no.
On September 13th, 2019, the first trailer for the AR game that Scott teased a while ago was released, and it featured none other than Markiplier. Markiplier was now canon to the FNAF universe. The teaser was awesome, and people were really hyped about the game. On September 29th, 2019, FNAFworld.com was updated with... FNAFworld.com was updated with the official announcement for Freddy in Space 2. On the same day, ScottGames.com was updated with a new teaser for Steelwell Studios' upcoming game. It was a closer look at what Freddy would look like in the game. There was nothing much to say about it except that it looked like the game was going to be 80s style. On October 11th, 2019, Steelwell Studios released the official trailer for some Help Wanted DLC. The DLC was Halloween themed and would be called Curse of Dreadbear. The trailer was short and mostly cinematic.
Looking at the DLC was terrifying.
Help Wanted, and the community couldn't wait to see what Steelwell Studio had in store as far as gameplay and the lore. 12 days later, on October 23rd, FNAF VR Curse of Dreadbear was released. The game was an instant hit. It looked like Steelwell took what people loved the most from Help Wanted and expanded on it in the DLC. The minigames were so creative and people really had a good time playing them. The game also expanded on the lore from Help Wanted. At the end of the Corn Maze minigame, we got to see a creepy bunny mask hidden in a cellar. You could then use this mask to unlock some secret dialogue at the prize counter. The dialogue hinted that someone was being controlled by Glitchtrap and was set to carry on the legacy that William started when he was fully alive. On November 5th, 2019, ScottGames.com was updated with the same Freddy teaser we saw before, but this time you could see the silhouette of the bunny mask lady we saw in Curse of Dreadbear. It looked like Steelwell Studios was setting up the next villain in the FNAF franchise. On November 16th, it was announced that MatPat was doing a big charity stream for St. Jude and it was going to feature Dawko, Markiplier, and some other cool creators. He didn't know it yet, but Dawko was being flown out to play Freddy in Space 2 with MatPat and Mark, but the game was going to be programmed where the farther you got in the game, the more money Scott would donate to the stream, and the cap was $500,000. The stream is going to be live on December 3rd, 2019. Fast forward 9 days to November 25th, 2019, and FNAF AR was officially released. FNAF AR brought some of the animatronics from FNAF home with you. Using AR technology, you could literally fight off animatronics that were invading your home. FNAF AR received several updates over time, adding new characters and skins of the classic animatronics such as Liberty Chica and Toxic Springtrap. A lot of the YouTubers checked out the game and really enjoyed playing it. Overall, at the time, the game had a good reception from the community. On November 30th, Scott Cawthon posted the official trailer for Freddy in Space 2. In the trailer, he promoted the Game Theory charity stream on December 3rd and showed a bunch of gameplay from the new game. Scott ended up dedicating Freddy in Space 2 to Skylar Jin, a YouTuber who loved FNAF and sadly passed away on October 26, 2019 due to cancer at the age of 12. The Game Theory charity stream ended up being a success. Mark, MatPat, and Dawko ended up winning the whole $500,000 from Scott's game and collectively raised over $1.3 million for St. Jude. On December 17th, to cap off the year, Steelwell Studios announced their Christmas update to FNAF VR, which ended up being mostly fun cosmetic changes to the game, but also featured a big teaser for their upcoming game that's been teased on Scott Games. In the update, you could actually choose to walk outside of the building. Once outside, you could see a giant mall being built in the distance, which was presumably the mall we were seeing in the Scott Games teasers. It's important for me to say that during this time, a new FNAF book series was being released called Fazbear Frights. The first book was released on December 26, 2019.
That's what I was talking about.
They were books with 3 individual stories stories based on the
Where the
Five
eyes
Nights at
from
Freddy's
Into the Pit.
franchise. These stories were not directly tied to the games, but they did help answer some questions from the lore. Once again, this is not a FNaF lore video, but I just thought I'd mention that. Our next teaser from the new game came on March 24th, 2020. The teaser featured a brand new animatronic in the form of an alligator. When you save the image, it's saved as Montgomery. This was our first official look at Monty. The next teaser for the new game came on May 5th, 2020, and it revealed the official title and logo for the game, Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. At this point, there were a ton of new leaks happening, with a calendar featuring the models of the new animatronics in the front, and Funko leaking their new Security Breach figures. So everyone already knew the title, but it was nice to see it in HD on Scott Games. On June 11th, 2020, we got our next teaser for Security Breach. This time it featured a security guard with long blonde hair and green eyes. The teaser had the word protect in purple at the bottom. A lot of people assumed that this was going to be the person helping us in Security Breach. On August 7th, 2020, we got our first look at Vanny, the bunny from FNaF VR Curse of Dreadbear. You can see the full homemade suit and a giant knife being held in her right hand. She also is surrounded by TVs, just like when Freddy was surrounded with TVs in the trailer for Help Wanted. The word obey is at the bottom of the teaser, which confirmed that this was the same person from Curse of Dreadbear. We got 2 more teasers for Security Breach the next day on FNAF's 6th anniversary. They were a similar style as the Freddy poster, but now with Roxanne and Chica. 14 days later, on August 21st, 2020, Scott Cawthon took to Reddit to announce something huge. In the Reddit post, he announced something called the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative. With this initiative, Scott was going to be personally funding a select few of the most popular FNAF fan games, including One Night at Flumpty's, Five Nights at Candy's, The Joy of Creation, Pop Goes, and a new game by Fiznom called FNAF Plus. This was an amazing moment for the community and the gaming world in general. The creator of one of the most popular indie games ever is personally funding a handful of fan games and letting them be a part of the FNAF multiverse. This was unheard of and a very welcome surprise to the community. If you want to learn more about that, I have a video on my channel called Why You Should Be Excited About the Fazbear Fanverse. I recommend you go check it out. Then, on September 16th, 2020, the entirety of the FNAF community lost their mind when this trailer was shown during the PlayStation State of Play event.
What's out there? This is not FNAF. That's not FNAF.
It's been such a difficult day for
No.
all of us.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh no!
So, Daco completely marking out is the same thing that I did, like a lot of people did. I lost my shit when I saw this trailer. I just was blown away by what we got. Even though we got, and it was a little bit, Security Breach was a bit rushed. I loved it. I 100% loved it. And if there's a video you really want to watch, which we are going to watch, it's you'll be seeing soon. It's Markiplier. What is it? It's the video is called I think it's called Markiplier losing his patience with Security Breach or something like that. So yeah, I marked out like this when I saw the trailer too. Avery was the one who actually told me about it.
People could not believe how good the game looked. Daco didn't even recognize it was a FNAF game until halfway through. I also remember losing my mind at this trailer and thinking about how far FNAF has come over the years, or for you, the beginning of this video. This was a giant moment for FNAF, and I'd say one of the biggest in FNAF's history. On November 17th, 2020, Security Breach got delayed for the first time. Scott went to Reddit to announce that the game would now be coming out in 2021 and not 2020. He explained that the game got way too big and they just need more time to finish it. He said it could have been out by Christmas, but they would have to cut content, and he wasn't willing to do that. The community responded well to this because the game already looked so good and they wanted it to be the best game possible. 3 days later, that bad news was overshadowed by some great news about the FNAF movie. On November 20th, Scott made a long Reddit post titled Bad News About the FNAF Movie. In this post, he went through a bunch of failed script ideas for the FNAF movie, including one called Plushies Take Manhattan. The post ended with a script called Mike, referring to Michael Afton, which was William Afton, the purple guy's son. This ended up being the screenplay they chose, and he announced that they are going to start filming in spring of 2021. This was giant news for the FNAF community because this movie has been on and off since April of 2014. So it was so nice to finally have some good news about the project. In January of 2021, it was announced that Steelwool Studios was going to be attending an NVIDIA event where they would show progress on Security Breach. This was a public event, but you would have to sign up for it in order to watch it. People were hyped to see some new content from the game despite it being delayed 2 months prior. The event happened on January 12th, 2021, and it was in the style of a PlayStation State of of Play event. The trailer featured some slow pans of some familiar and some new areas of the mall we haven't seen yet. A fair amount of the community was confused / unsatisfied with what we got, some saying that the game looked nothing like what we got in the first teaser trailer. Scott saw this reception and went to Reddit to clarify that the new footage was meant to just be a tech demo showing off new parts of the mall, and that an actual trailer 2 would be coming out in March. And the trailer actually came sooner than that, on February 25th, 2021, once again during... The trailer once again blew everyone away, showing us new gameplay and cinematic shots from the game. We got our first look at the 3D models for the 4 main animatronics, the new Sun and Moon animatronics, and Vanny. The trailer ended with the hand of a mystery animatronic. The hand looked extremely similar to a nightmare animatronic, but not 100%. Some people thought that the hand might actually belong to William Afton, brought back from the dead and into his physical form once more. On April 28th, 2021, Scott once again went to Reddit to announce that Security Breach was being delayed. He said the game would be moved from early 2021 to late 2021 and explained that it would be worth it. Scott went on to say, "I know it's disappointing, but I didn't want you all to walk away empty-handed, so I made something for the community," with a link to a game called Security Breach Fury's Rage. The main gameplay was basically a FNaF Street Fighter game featuring the main 4 animatronics from Security Breach and some weird enemies, some that we've seen from FNaF AR and some brand new. The community loved this game from Scott and couldn't wait for Security Breach because it was looking to be the biggest FNaF game yet. In June 2021, after some information about Scott's political donations went viral on Twitter, he decided it was best for him to officially retire from game development. In his final Scott Games update, he announced that someone else would be taking up the mantle for him in the future and that he wanted to go back to making games for his kids. And
Scott has a different political view than us.
August
He's
8, 2021, he got another piece of artwork from Steel Studios, Daco's brand Hex announcing that they were making their own
Scott's
FNaF
awesome,
plushies,
man.
and we got a 13-minute long short film for FNaF Plus, one of the games in the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative. This short film was an incredible cinematic look at what we've been getting in the FNaF remake / reimagining. On September 1st, 2021, Steel Studios suspiciously tweeted that their website was down and that it'd be back up soon. Once it was back up, a link to a separate website called securitybreachtv.com was added. The website looked to be the new hub for FNaF Security Breach teasers, featuring a FNaF-styled office with a giant screen in the middle. 6 days later, on September 7th, 2021, securitybreachtv.com updated and now featured a video that you could activate by pushing that Freddy button on the desk. The video was a Hanna-Barbera themed cartoon featuring Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. The cartoon showed the characters going on a road trip in a pizza delivery service van, only to be confronted by Foxy along the way. Foxy ends up getting revealed to be an animatronic while the other characters are in shock. The video ends with a slithering thing going across the screen and a small teaser for a release date below the Security Breach logo. Security Breach's marketing was now in full swing. Steelwool would release 3 more of these videos over the next 6 weeks, each teasing a new character in the upcoming game. These videos all led to the final trailer being revealed at the PlayStation State of Play event on October 27th. This final trailer was miles beyond what anyone was expecting from the game. It featured cutscenes that had incredible animation, gameplay that looked great for the most part, and the official release date December 16th, 2021. But most importantly of all, it featured Music Man! People were more hyped than ever for the game. It looked like this game was going to change FNaF forever. 3 days after the trailer, on October 30th, 2021, Daco held a charity livestream where Steelwool Studios sent him some new teasers for Security Breach to reveal when new donation goals were hit. These teasers included posters from the game, most notably some Fredbear's Family Diner posters. This made everyone curious about how the first ever FNaF pizzeria would play a role in the game. Also, during the charity stream, the first game from the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative, One Night at Flumpty's 3, was released. Daco then played it live on stream. And a few days before the game came out, Daco actually got to interview Steelwool Studios on his YouTube channel on December 12th, 2021. On December 16th, 2021, Security Breach was finally released and the game was huge. The game ended up being bigger than any of us were expecting. The game starts with a cutscene that we saw pieces of in the trailer. The cutscene ended with Freddy glitching out and falling on stage. He then wakes up in his green room with Gregory inside his stomach hatch. Thus begins a journey where Freddy tries to help Gregory escape the mall, trying to avoid Vanny, the Night Guard, and the other animatronics that are after him. The game looked great, but it didn't come without some bugs, or a lot of bugs.
Mark's slightly losing his patience with the Security Breach.
I'll try to get in there. Whoa. Shove a beak inside of you, and you are going to be able to talk better. The bursting. Okay, look at that arm there. What
While the game did come with some bugs, it still had a mostly positive reaction from fans. The game was pretty divisive as far as the story was concerned. It added more questions than answers
you were
and was
actually
fairly
supposed to go to
vague
the
about
charging
why and
station that
how
was
things were
outside
happening. This
of
led
the,
to a lot of people posting and talking
upgrade
about their
room.
theories online, including one of the biggest people on YouTube, MatPat. On February 19th, 2022, MatPat held another FNaF Theory livestream on the Game Theorist channel with a few other YouTubers, including Dawko, Tetrabit Gaming, Tom and Dan from Game Theory, Super Horror Bro, Bandit Games, and me. During the stream, we discussed our theories about what the heck happened in Security Breach, with MatPat slightly hoping that Steelwool or Scott would start giving us some hints during the stream, just like back in 2015. But no hints ever came. It looked like we were on our own this time to try and figure out the lore of this game. Overall, Security Breach was a nice addition to the franchise. The bugs were annoying sometimes, but a lot of them made the game funnier, and speedrunners had a field day with them. The game birthed a bunch of new memes that blew up all over TikTok and some amazing cosplay from the community. After a few months, Steelwool Studios started making updates to the game, adding features that were meant to be there on launch and fixing a bunch of the bugs. And here we are today. The FNaF movie never ended up filming in spring of 2021, but Jason Blum is continually reassuring us on Twitter that it's still coming. FNaF is getting its own pizza delivery service. There are over 25 FNaF books at this point, with a new series called Tales from the Pizzaplex currently being released. The Fazbear Fanverse initiative is still in full swing.
Imagine
with the
if Jason
recent release of
Blundell
Pop Goes
actually
Arcade
ended
on
up,
Steam.
like,
Dawko is
joining the
creating
FNaF,
his own line of
joining
FNaF plushies
Steelwool
with his
and putting
brand
his own
Hex.
input
The
on
Living
it.
Tombstone released their first FNaF song in years with This Comes From Inside, and Steelwool Studios officially announced free DLC for Security Breach coming out in 2023. FNaF started as Scott's final
Ruin
project
DLC,
before
yeah.
giving up game development
Got
for
a lot of
good.
things
He
there
took
to
the
say
bad
about
reviews
that.
he was getting and ran with them, creating one of the biggest game franchises in the world. And 8 years later, it's still going strong. This was the entire history of Five Nights at Freddy's. Thanks for watching.